Hi, I'm Katie Ewing. I'm going to read 4 poems for you today. The first was originally published in Octavius magazine, but I'm going to read from this wee publication that I did in collaboration with my mum, painter Sheila Mullen. This is Holiday. We drive south all night through late June's darkest hours, eyes fighting to stay open. A golden crescent moon cradles itself in sleepless summer night. As the big sky begins to wake to wan blue, we travel down through England's tangled midst, roads narrowing and twisting like old tree roots. At last we get there, hours early, and stop, nestled under big old roadside trees. You say, "Look," hushed and urgent, and point out across the road. The fox stood, soft in silhouette, caricatured, framed by hedge, first light misting from behind, and looked at us 5 in our metal cage, breakfasting on purdies and doughnuts, waiting to drive under the raised barrier to an unknown airport parking lot. The next one is to do with the barn owl and the different uses that humans have put the barn owl to. The epigraph is from E.A. Armstrong, The Long Hidden Friend, and is, "If you lay the heart and right foot of a barn owl on one who is asleep, he will answer whatever you ask him and tell what he has done." A charmed life. Keep your heart safe and both feet together. Keep your eggs from us who would turn you to a mere charm, a drunkard's cure, a truth serum, broth to stop our whooping cough. Protect your fine feathers from the trophy hunters, indulgers in vanity, who only want you for your looks. Stay hidden, silent as the night, your flight as secret as a spell to travel the boundaries, unseen, unhindered, free to see unseeable small beasts, here who will be snatched up tonight. The next one is from this publication I did with Joy Hendry from Poets Republic Press called Bearings, and it's a kind of a tribute to my late father, who was an artist and art teacher. Drawing. We sit on a hill above Moffat, and Dad draws with a fine liner. Streets and rooftops, windows, doors, chimneys, hedges, trees, and the town appears on what had been a blank page. I try too, but he made it look easy, to turn the world into a working image, to see that everything from your own lap to the horizon, the whole big sky, and know where to start, what to leave out. And finally, a return to childhood and summers past. Moonshot. Often on the sidelines, watching, my dad and big brother's deadly serious, furious fun. The grass green, mud brown male sweat smells the supremacy of skill and rules and strategy, ability to not acknowledge the painful winding of a fast fall or knockdown onto hard-packed ground, the sting of heavy leather on bare flesh or football boots on shins, a bit of blood, just part of the battle. Occasionally I'd be allowed to join a kick around, trying not to be upset by allowances being made or not being made, or just my smallness letting me down. And oh, the magic of Andy's keepy-uppy, impossible, the ball so quick to knee, to head, to foot, for longer and longer. And of course, the moonshots I always begged for, that only they could do. The solid ball kicked hard, straight up, to almost disappear into the blue sky. Time stretching as I held on for the fall back to earth, the beautiful bounce. Thank you.
T.S. Eliot called April the cruelest month. Nights can be freezing and flowers bloom into what still feels like winter. The sun illuminates harshly with no foliage to soften edges. Plants and creatures struggle with the cold as they busy themselves for what's to come. This short poem was triggered by seeing a pigeon land on our shed in the early morning of a sunny April day. Wood pigeon on the roof. The bird and her shadow unhinge like a pair of hands, her warmth melting a stripe down frosted tiles. April often begins like this, hard-lined before the leaves, the rush to conceive, the need to survive, spring poised in the wings. On the too bright wall, a ripple of light is the morning announcing itself. This poem is a tribute to my friend who's a Syrian refugee. She's a writer herself and has been a huge inspiration. I wrote it partly because she's taught me what it's like to move the centre of your world to somewhere cold and strange, but mostly because of her remarkable resilience and kindness as she struggles to make a new life for herself here in Scotland. This poem's called Amaryllis. A text comes thanking me for sharing the journey of your flower. The bulb she gave me at Christmas with a wee bag of earth has been growing a stem tall as a mast. In today's picture, its first white bloom flares like a megaphone, proclaiming peace. I thank her for her friendship. These WhatsApp exchanges are now our main means of lockdown communication. A photo shoot for Valentine's Day follows. Baby on a rug surrounded by red roses. Baby in purple trousers, top knot to match. And I think of the journeys she's made, her first family blown apart by war, her new budding ambitions, and the daily courage it must have taken to rise and decipher life in a strange land after nightmared sleep, her determination to go on living it. This poem was triggered by a feature I saw on Channel 4 News a few months ago about the fate of school children in war-torn Yemen. Still eager to learn, they'll walk perilously to what is in effect a bomb site and accept what they find when they get there. Remembering my safe and happy childhood, this shocked me. The poem's called Learning to Count for the Children of Yemen. As all the hands shoot up, I remember my childhood boredom, how good it felt to ruffle life's surfaces playfully, unintentionally, as wind does to water, to take things apart for the fun of it, for a laugh, to discover what it means to be broken. Arriving under flawless blue, these boys must know what boils the sky above their heads is not a hawk, and certainly never to be trusted. Now girls arrive, settling like butterflies on a desert tree. No one creeps to this bombed-out school reluctantly. No whining Shakespeares here. They race with hope, their hearts on fire. Tomorrow a teacher might come, and if not, they'll listen politely to the blind, lame 9-year-old, destined for leadership, being helped to the front by his sister. And like today, he'll call out the sums as all the hands shoot up, survivors of the world's shame, learning to count. I've been a Quaker for nearly 40 years now, and writing poetry has been part of a spiritual journey, as well as the simple pleasure of being creative. So on a hopeful note, with a poem Chris Salt helped me improve, and through that process come to understand better what poetry can achieve, this is Fishing. It's not about food, and mostly you wait. You wait and you wait. You watch the others. You watch the water where the hook went in. You watch and you wait until the day you learn just to sit, waiting for the tug. You give up fishing. You let the river run away to sea. You sit quietly, as in worship, your sport just to sit for love of your life, waiting for nothing. Except if you're lucky, a salmon will leap in your chest over sunlight flickering on the alder leaves, the shoal pooling to feed at your feet.
Hello, I'm Peter Roberts, and this is Glen Cairn. We're about 12 miles northwest of Dumfries, looking up the glen towards Moniaive. I'm going to read two poems inspired by this place. The first is called History of Glen Cairn. It's not the history that's written about in books. It's more about the way the seasonal daily routine of people keeps a place like this alive. History of Glen Cairn. The old railway courts bramble and birch. Iron fence posts yearn for rust's rest. Stones rush from dikes to earth. Cairn water frets for the sea. A decaying land waiting for its true nativity, when old men with no need of gain, but who know no other way, roam the glen in ancient jeeps, dug in the back, orphan on the lap, doing the rounds of scattered folds, rented or bartered, to keep my hand in. Mule midwives, coaxing lambs from yows, new life birthed into rain, snow, rain again, and each birth seems to gather the unravelling land, calling it back to attention. I'm fair puggled, they'll say, leaning on the yet, this yin's my last year. But they'll be back to keep the lambing and their own selves going, till they and the land lie together. My second poem is Kites at Auchenfedric. Auchenfedric, or Patrick's Field, is this pocket handkerchief-sized piece of open moorland surrounded by pasture, enclosed pastures, where I'm sitting now. It's also known as the Craigs after the many glacial rocks that are scattered across its surface from left after the last ice age. When I watch the kites flying over here, soaring around this area on a very wet, dreek day of overcast skies, I was reminded of Salvador Dali's painting, Christ of St. John of the Cross, that hangs in the Kelvin Grove Museum. It was the way the kites just hung on their wings that reminded me of that figure of Christ. And the poem takes references from the way Dali described himself as an atomic artist, and his description of his approach to the painting of that image. Kites at Auchenfedric. Red kites, rattled by the in-by gate, drop from ash on the moor's edge, hook the liquid air, and ascend to float on pinioned wings over this sodden northern Galilee. First one, then two and three, each a heart's leap lifting, exult ascending, until a circus of six circle the rim of land under the tented sky. I encircled, thought staunched, I entranced, mastery of wing plane, dressing rough air, deft tail swivel holding a line, lines weaving a lucent roof over sanctified space. Each cruciform grace lifts the darkling veil, atoms of life unifying the universe, pinions combing infinity, raptor eyes fixated on the warrens of Auchenfedric. Louche brigands, tumbling down the sky for joy, redeem my veiled heart, unkilted spirit.